Hello everyone, welcome to another class of geography. Today we are discussing water resources of Pakistan and it's the second lecture of this chapter. So let's see what water resources are there available in Pakistan. So these are the water resources of Pakistan. You can see first I have listed glaciers. Now if you remember what we discussed in the previous class, that there are glaciers in the north of Pakistan because of the mountains there, mountains having very high altitude. So there are several glaciers there which are several kilometers long, and these glaciers are simply uh, mass of ice. These are huge masses of ice in the valley regions at higher altitudes above snow line. So these glaciers are basically reserves of fresh water because the precipitation in either form is it's fresh water in snowfall. So what happens, these glaciers provide fresh water. They feed rivers when the ice melt. So if you remember that we discussed that snowfall in the mountains and the melt of ice from glaciers, it's feeding the rivers of Pakistan, river Indus and its tributaries, and this water has been trapped in frozen form, in ice form. That's why it is believed that it has not been exposed to pollutants as the liquid water is exposed to pollutants and other chemicals and all. So this is said to be a fresh water resource which is not polluted, and it's not going to be consumed overnight because these are frozen. They take time to form, and there is only a small amount of these glaciers which is melting every year, and thus it's providing water to the rivers. Next we have rainfall. Now rainfall towards the east and north of Pakistan is higher as compared to the western parts of it. Now the two major sources of rainfall in Pakistan uh, are monsoon winds and the western depression. There are other kinds of rainfalls as well, but we are not discussing that right now, so let's just stick to it. So what happens when rainfall occurs? This water from rainfall, it is infiltrated by the soil. It means it's absorbed by the soil, which then recharges your groundwater resources. Your groundwater aquifer is recharged due to this. Other than that, the water which moves on surface, the surface runoff leads this water to rivers and surface water bodies. So this rainfall is adding to the underground water, the groundwater, and it's also recharging the surface water resources such as rivers, lakes, and ponds. So this is again an important source of water in Pakistan. There are some areas which are known as rain-fed areas where agriculture could rely on the rainfall because it's plentiful there. But as we move towards the west of Pakistan, in the Balochistan plateau, rainfall is not that reliable, but it's not the case with the eastern and the northern parts of Pakistan. Next, I have listed rivers. So, Pakistan is mainly dependent on rivers. We have been irrigating waters with the help of dams and canals. Now, rivers, as we discussed in the previous class, river Indus is the major river which starts from Karakoram and flows down towards the south all the way till Indus Delta, where it drains into Arabian Sea. It has eastern and western tributaries. The eastern are the major tributaries which feed river Indus, and they drain through the upper Indus plain, and the water from these tributaries have been used for uh, agriculture, for irrigation. Achha. Next we have groundwater resource. Now groundwater is the water which is found under the surface of earth. So we can say it's the subsurface water. We are going to discuss it in detail later on during this presentation. The last one I've mentioned here is seawater. Now you must be thinking that why is it mentioned as a water resource? So although it's saline water, but during circumstances when there are drought-like conditions, or when there is less rainfall, or when there is more need of water, this seawater can be converted into fresh water by the process of desalination. So we have Arabian Sea towards the south of Pakistan, and that is again a source of water which can be utilized uh, after the process of desalination. So what you see in this map here are the rivers of Pakistan. Now you can see that it's river Indus, which starts uh, in the north in Karakoram mountains, and it keeps on moving towards west. Now while it's moving, there are several streams, several tributaries which would drain into river Indus, and we can say this is fed by the glaciers of Karakoram and Hindu Kush mountains. So when it enters in Pakistan, it keeps on moving in the northwest direction in a series of gorges, and these are in between. It's flowing in between Karakoram and Himalayan ranges. As we have discussed, these both are parallel to each other. As soon as it enters in the Gilgit district, it turns towards south, and at the point where it is in Skardu, Shyok River enters or drains into River Indus. So it's a tributary which joins River Indus at Skardu. There are other smaller tributaries which enter River Indus or which drain into River Indus in this region. So I'll name only two of these tributaries here. One is River Gilgit, and another one is Hunza, which drains into River Indus at this area. Once it has taken a south turn in Gilgit region, it turns a bit towards west in between Hindu Kush and Himalayan range. Then it keeps moving towards south, and after crossing a deep gorge near Attak, it enters in the plain area after crossing the mountainous region of Kalabagh. Before it enters into this plain area, just in the region of Attak, River Kabul, which flows from west to east, from Afghanistan to Pakistan, it joins River Indus near Attak. So again, this is a tributary which drains into River Indus, and there are some other important tributaries below Attak which drain from west towards east and drain into River Indus, namely Kurram, Tochi, Zob, Gomal rivers. So once this river enters in the plain area, you can see the eastern tributaries are draining into River Indus. So Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Satluj, and just before Satluj enters into Pakistan, there's this river Beas which drains into River Satluj. So these are the eastern tributaries which have more water in them as compared to the western ones. So these five tributaries, when they join together, you can see in this area here, right above Mithankot. Here, this small river is known as this small part of river is known as Panjnath River, because these tributaries have joined as at the point which is known as Panjnath. So River Panjnath keeps on flowing and it drains into River Indus at the area which is known as Mithankot. So after Mithankot, this river is only known as River Indus, which keeps on moving towards south until it drains into Arabian Sea. So after Mithankot, we have the lower Indus plain, and before Mithankot, we have the upper Indus plain, which has one major river, and rest of the tributaries are there, but in the lower Indus plain we only have one major river, that is river Indus. So I hope this map is clear to you. Let's proceed with the tributaries. Let's discuss the tributaries of river Indus here. Now first we are discussing the eastern tributaries of river Indus. So mainly these are Satluj, Ravi, Chenab, and Jhelum. And as I discussed when I was explaining the map, that river Beas joins Satluj in India right before it drains into Pakistan, it enters into Pakistan. So these tributaries you must have noticed in the map, we have discussed in the first lecture as well. These originate in Himalayan mountain ranges, and they drain towards south and enter in plain areas. So when I say these originate in the Himalayan region, you must remember that the Himalayan region has snow-capped mountains, it has glaciers in it, and then we have plentiful rainfall in this area. So it means we can say that these tributaries would have more water if we compare these to the western tributaries of river Indus. Now what happens during summer, as the temperatures are high, the snow capped mountain fields, the snow cover, and the glaciers, all of this is melting. And other than that, we also receive enough or plentiful rainfall during monsoon season. Due to these two reasons, what happens, there is high influx of water into these rivers in river Indus and its tributaries during the summer season, because of the snow melt and because of the rainfall, because Pakistan receives most of its rainfall during the monsoon season. But during winters, what would happen, that the influx of water or the mean discharge from these rivers is going to be less. Now the obvious reason is because it's winter, there would be snowfall taking place, but as the temperatures are lower, this snow is now melting. So less water is being added into these rivers because of very less snow melt. And again, the precipitation during winters, although we receive precipitation during winters, but it is less if we compare it to the precipitation that we receive during summers. It means we are receiving less precipitation and there is less snow melt. That's why there would be less water flowing into these rivers during the winter season. So these are the characteristics or of the eastern tributaries of river Indus. Now let's see what the western tributaries are here. The western tributaries of river Indus, mainly river Kabul, river Sawat, Tochi, Gomal, and Kurram and Zob river. So these rivers are not as big as the eastern tributaries are. These do not have high influx of water because the areas from where they originate, this is not as high in altitude as we have towards the northern part of Pakistan from where the eastern tributaries are coming from. So these rivers are smaller in length and width, and they don't have this much water as we have in the eastern tributaries. The rivers have again less water would be flowing into these rivers because these originate from the areas where there are no glaciers, very less snowfall, and relatively drier regions if we compare these regions to the eastern tributary regions of river Indus. Now influx of water in these rivers would be again higher in summer and lower in winter. Summers may it's going to be higher because of snowmelt from the areas from where these are being originated, and in winters, as precipitation is low and snowmelt is low, that's why there would be less water draining into or flowing into these rivers. So let's discuss what the rivers of Balochistan are. So if we talk about the rivers of Balochistan, there are different river systems in there. First, we have discussed the western tributaries of River Indus. Uh, some of these rivers drain from Balochistan towards east into River Indus, such as River Zob, Kandhar, and Kalachi. They flow from west to east, and as in the east we have River Indus, they drain into River Indus. So these rivers are basically tributaries of River Indus. Next, we have rivers which are absorbed into plain areas. It means they start flowing in the mountainous region, and these are again not the big rivers if we compare these to the others. These rivers such as Loralai, Chakar, Bolan, and River Mula, these are absorbed into Kutchi Sibi plain, and it's noteworthy here that in these areas uh, evaporation rate is high, and either these are absorbed and either these are evaporated, and they do not drain into another big river or into Arabian Sea. These are absorbed in the plain area. So this is second kind of river system, the inland river system we have here. Third, we have independent river systems which are located towards the south of Balochistan. So these rivers such as River Porali, Hub, and Hingol, and Mashkhel, these rivers flow towards south, towards the Arabian Sea, and they drain into Arabian Sea. So most of these rivers are independent river systems. They are not part of another river system, and there are several other small seasonal rivers that flow in Balochistan. When I say seasonal, I mean to say these are not flowing throughout the year. When there is rainfall, there would be these small rivers formed. These rivers would flow towards the west, and these drain into land. They don't have access to sea or any other big river, so these drain into shallow depressions, and these shallow depressions are called hammoons. So these rivers form sort of lakes in these areas, which is later on evaporated because these were only seasonal rivers, and when the temperatures would be higher, there would be chances of these small lakes or hammoons to dry up. So these are the different types of rivers in Balochistan. Now this water resource we are discussing here is groundwater. It's the subsurface surface water which we extract from with the help of wells or with the help of quarries. Now, how is it formed? Why is it there? As we have discussed previously, that the water that is being released from surface water bodies, from rivers, from lakes, from canals, it seeps into grounds, and when there is an impermeable rock layer, the water starts to accumulate there. It starts to gather there. So this water that we are extracting from the ground, it's basically the ground which is saturated with water. The upper layer of this saturated rock, or is this saturated ground, is known as water table, or in the other words we can say water table is the level below which ground is saturated in water, below which we would find water. Now this water table, the upper layer of groundwater, it varies during dry and rainy season. Why does it vary? Because during dry season there is less or no rainfall. It means less infiltration is taking place, less less discharge from water bodies, and these groundwater resources, the aquifer, is not getting recharged as it does during the rainy season. So during it simply means when there is rainy season, more infiltration is taking place, the water table is going to be higher, than it would be during the dry season. I hope this is clear to you. Now, this water can be sweet or it can be saline. So, if this groundwater is being extracted in an area which is near a water source, if it's near a river, if it's near a canal, if it's in the area where there is high amount of precipitation, so there are more chances of finding sweet groundwater. But if the water is usually the water is away from uh, surface water bodies, from recharge sources, there are chances of finding saline water. So if we talk about some of the areas in Karachi, we do not receive enough rainfall, there isn't a major river flowing here, so the chances of finding saline groundwater are higher as compared to finding sweet groundwater. Alright, let's just look at this diagram. It shows you the groundwater, and it shows you these arrows which are showing infiltration. Alright, so there's just one clarification. When I say sweet groundwater, I basically mean the fresh groundwater which is not saline. Alright, so let's have a look here. So when precipitation takes place, you can see these arrows which are moving downwards in the ground. This is infiltration. As we have discussed in grade 8, infiltration is the downward movement of water into the ground. And where would this water go? It would go and recharge the groundwater. What other way is there of recharging this groundwater? You can see this stream, cross section of a stream. Now water in rivers and streams, in lakes or canals, this is also being absorbed. So when this water is being absorbed, this also recharges the groundwater resource or the groundwater aquifer. Now here we can see a pumping well. It could be a tube well or whatever. So you can see this line here, and what we see here is that water table is into a decline trend here. And why is it so? Because water is being extracted out. So what happens here, if we keep on extracting water at a very high rate and we are not giving groundwater enough time to recharge, the water table would keep on decreasing. So again we have to use it sustainably, specifically in the areas which have semi-arid or arid climate, specifically in the areas of Balochistan, where if we keep on extracting a lot of groundwater, we would end up having a very low water table. It means we would have to keep digging the wells deeper. So this is how it works